Today on Pierre Solves, we're building a puzzle featuring the king of rock and roll himself, Elvis Presley. My first impression of this puzzle is that it actually looks really well designed, with lots of colors and gradients spread across the image, but I'm completely unfamiliar with the brand, Eternal Moment. So will it hold up to first impressions? Let's build it, review it, and find out. And while we build, we'll also take a look at the fascinating life and legacy of Elvis Presley himself, from the music and concerts to the iconic outfits and performances that turned him into one of the most recognizable entertainers in history. So sit back, relax, and let's bring this eternal moment to life. As you can see, I finished the flip and edge pull in 12 minutes and 51 seconds. During this stage, there's usually a particular section that starts standing out to me, and in this case it was that small red section, which I already started putting together. Lastly, I pulled out the pieces with white lines on them as well. Looking at the box, this already seems like it's going to be quite a challenging build, although I'll know for sure later on. Those black pieces with the white lines on them also look like they'll form part of the guitar neck, which I'll probably start putting together later. Since this is a puzzle I recently thrifted, there were still a few connected sections from the previous build that I missed while scrambling the pieces earlier. So during the flip, I separated all those clusters because I wanted to experience the build properly from scratch, without any accidental help. I'm also not entirely sure if the puzzle is complete, so I'm really hoping all the pieces are here. First impressions on this puzzle so far are positive, although it's still very early days. The pieces have a glossy finish, which is perfectly fine, and the piece shapes all seem to be unique, which is great because a puzzle with no false fits is definitely a strong mark of quality. Let's build this puzzle out a bit more, and I'll check back in shortly where we will talk more about Elvis along with the puzzle brand itself. Right around the 2 hour and 8 minute mark, I feel like steady progress is being made. There are a lot of different color sections throughout the image, which constantly gives me something to work on, and so far there still haven't been any false fits. Honestly, I'm really enjoying this puzzle so far, and first impressions of the brand are actually very positive. Now looking at the puzzle box image again, Elvis with his Gibson acoustic guitar. Doesn't it almost look like a real photograph at first glance? Especially when compared to some of these original photos of Elvis himself, along with the guitar he famously played on stage. It really has that nostalgic feel to it. But who exactly is Elvis Presley? Do I even need to ask? Born in Tupelo, Mississippi in 1935, Elvis Presley would eventually become one of the most recognizable entertainers in history, earning the title the King of Rock and Roll. But interestingly, his very first live performances were actually nerve-wracking for him. Early on, Elvis was known to get extremely nervous before going on stage, and during one performance, he reportedly started shaking his legs so much that the crowd went wild, something that would eventually become one of his most iconic performance styles. By the time of his passing in 1977, Elvis had sold hundreds of millions of records worldwide, starred in over 30 films, and built a legacy that still remains hugely influential today. Even decades later, his image, music, outfits, and guitars are still instantly recognizable all around the world. Elvis also became well known for some of his guitars he played throughout his career, especially his Gibson models. One of his most famous guitars was the Gibson J200, which he became closely associated with his early performances and television appearances during the 1950s. Later on, Elvis was also known for playing the Gibson Dove acoustic guitar, including custom versions designed specifically for him. A lot of his guitars featured flashy details, custom finishes, and decorative designs that matched the larger-than-life stage presence he became famous for during his Vegas concert years. Even today, many of those guitars are considered highly collectible pieces of music history. But for now, let's continue building the puzzle, and I'll check back in shortly with more details on Elvis and the puzzle itself. At 3 hours and 34 minutes, my progress looks as follows. You can now clearly see the guitar taking shape, along with part of Elvis's face starting to emerge as well. Now, while Elvis wasn't necessarily known as a technical guitar pioneer in the same way as players like Fernando Sor, Francisco Tiguera, or Jimi Hendrix were, he still had an exceptional ear for music and was a very strong rhythm guitar player. His stage presence, voice, and overall performance style were really what made him stand out from almost anyone else at the time. As mentioned earlier, one of Elvis's most famous guitars was the Gibson SJ200, and by regularly playing Gibson guitars live on stage and featuring them in movies, he helped massively increase public interest in the Gibson brand itself. Elvis also had a huge influence on fashion during the 1950s and beyond, breaking cultural norms and helping shape what would eventually become the modern rock star image. From bright pink shirts, which were considered unusual for men at the time, to custom black leather outfits and later the legendary jumpsuits, Elvis created a style that became permanently linked to the energy and attitude of rock and roll. And honestly, looking at this puzzle image now, you can really see the larger-than-life stage presence starting to come through as the build progresses. Just 2 hours later, Elvis is now pretty much clearly visible, and honestly, that stage presence combined with the modern art style makes for a really fun build. There's just something about this image that works extremely well as a puzzle. The lighting, the colors, the gradient, and the random lines and dots scattered throughout combined with the pose of Elvis himself and the guitar. It all captures that larger-than-life concert energy Elvis became famous for. So what do I think of this brand and puzzle so far? Excellent, honestly. The pieces are solid and firm, all the shapes are unique, so there are no false fits, and the image quality itself is really striking. Eternal Moment? You can absolutely claim that name, because this definitely feels like an iconic Eternal Moment to me. From here on out, as we near the end of the build, I do suspect things are going to slow down a little bit, since most of what is left is the green background. But there are still subtle changes throughout it. Yellow lines, small red and green dots, bits of black here and there, so thankfully it's not just one giant flat color. This image really feels like it was designed with puzzlers in mind, because the image keeps flowing naturally without becoming frustrating. And so far, all the major sections appear to be complete, which is a very good sign. Since this was a thrift store purchase, I'm still really hoping every single piece is here. Also, let's see if I can finish this in under 7 hours. For me, anything under 6 hours for a 1,000-piece puzzle is extremely fast. Under 8 hours is around average, and anything over 10 hours usually means it was a genuinely difficult build. Right now, this one definitely falls into the easier category. Let's continue the build, and I'll check back in shortly. At this point in the build, I've started working on the edges, although I haven't fully placed them around the border just yet. At this stage, most of what's left is the background with Elvis and the guitar now pretty much complete. Thankfully, the background still has enough subtle color variation along with random dots, lines and gradients scattered throughout to keep the build moving at a steady pace. I've also started shape sorting, which can become very helpful during the final stages of a puzzle like this, although for this particular puzzle, most of the pieces are the standard 2 ins and 2 outs, so the effectiveness of shape sorting here is definitely debatable. Right now I'm still working mostly off color. So this is the progress update at the 6 hour and 30-minute mark. Now let's talk about Elvis branding, legacy, and just how massive the Elvis empire eventually became. What makes Elvis particularly fascinating is that he didn't just become a successful musician, he became one of the very first truly global entertainment brands. His image, hairstyles, outfits, guitars, stage performances, movies, and even the way he moved on stage became instantly recognizable all around the world. Even decades after his passing in 1977, Elvis remains one of the highest earning deceased celebrities ever. His estate still generates millions of dollars every year through sales of music, licensing, merchandise, Graceland tourism, films, collectibles, and partnerships with major brands. This is an incredible achievement, and it can definitely be argued that Elvis helped create the blueprint for the modern celebrity brand long before social media or the internet even existed. Now, let's finish this puzzle and see if all the pieces are actually here. As we place the final pieces, let's reflect on this build. This was a genuinely fun puzzle to put together, and to be honest, a great thrift store find. The brand itself also impressed me quite a bit, and now that I've built one of their puzzles, I can definitely say that if I find more from Eternal Moment in the future, I'll happily add them to my collection. This showcase build came in at 7 hours and 14 minutes, which I think I should be able to improve on during my next solve for the upcoming overhead time-lapse version of this puzzle. And I'm happy to report that all the pieces are here. The puzzle is complete, which I'm genuinely thrilled about. My luck with thrift store puzzles hasn't always been the best, and out of the last 10 I've built, only 3 were complete. They're incredibly cheap compared to buying new puzzles, to be fair, but there's always that risk of missing pieces. Even so, I still enjoy building them. I just want to add an incomplete puzzle to my collection. Next up, I'm going to do this puzzle again and feature it in the next segment, the overhead time-lapse with no commentary. This definitely wasn't a particularly difficult puzzle, so without the interruptions from filming the showcase segments, I'm aiming for a much faster solve, hopefully somewhere around the 6 hour mark. Let's see if I can beat my current time. And that concludes our dive back in time. This Elvis Presley puzzle is officially complete. Thank you all so much for watching and joining me on this build. I hope you enjoyed learning a little more about Elvis, the Eternal Moment puzzle brand, and following my progress as I progressed through solving this puzzle. Overall, I was genuinely impressed by this puzzle and the Eternal Moment brand, and I'll certainly be keeping an eye out for more of their puzzles in the future. If you enjoy puzzle content like this, be sure to subscribe to Pierre Solves, as I have plenty more puzzle builds, thrift store finds, reviews, and time lapses coming in the future. You can also find me on TikTok and Instagram under the name Pierre Solves, where I share the same puzzle shorts and channel updates if you prefer following along there. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, happy puzzling!